What's up everyone, Ryan McCullough here with another Next Generation Music Sessions video. In today's video, I'm going to show you how to spice up your G major triad voicings that we learned in the previous video. Link above if you don't know what I'm talking about. And we're going to work on embellishments. Coming up next. So before I get started, I just wanted to thank everyone for checking out these videos, and I just wanted to encourage you, if you have any suggestions or any questions, please leave them in the comments below. All right, now let's get started with embellishments. What is an embellishment? So an embellishment is basically a way of playing something else that is other than the G major triad voicing in question. Of course, that seems like you could basically do whatever you want to, but there are, I would say, like a couple of ways that we're used to hearing and playing embellishments with triads, and I thought I'd share them with you. So the types of triad embellishments that we'll cover today, along with the etude that I'll show you at the end of this lesson that I wrote just for this lesson, can be found on my website for free. You can check the description below, and there will be a link to that PDF. Let's get started. So here's what I'm going to advocate, just to keep this simple and to focus the lesson. So by embellishing G major, what I'm talking about is adding a C major chord to the G major. What this will do, interestingly enough, is make it sound like you're playing something a little bit more complicated than just a G major chord. There are a couple of different ways of doing this, and it's really going to be dependent upon which inversion of G major you're using and which string set voicing you're going to be using. That is, are you playing it on the D, G, and B strings, or the G, B, and E strings, the low strings, and all of that. So the first type of embellishment I'd like to take a look at is going to be what's called the neighbor chord embellishment. So what you're doing is you're starting on that root position G, and then you're going to be playing that second inversion C and back. It's called the neighbor chord because the term neighbor comes from contrapuntal studies. And basically the idea is that you're playing over a G harmony fundamentally, and that when you play that G chord, that is the chord that you're playing over, obviously, and then you play that C chord. It's something different. There are so what we call non-chord tones there. The C and the E don't belong to G, B, and D. And by going up to them and coming back down, you create this moment of tension and then resolution. And it sounds like this. You can do the same thing for the next inversion. That's the first inversion on the G, B, and D strings, doing that neighbor chord motion like this. And finally, this is one of the ones that I use most frequently because you can bar this second inversion G chord and do this C and do some pretty cool things with it. Here's what the neighbor chord combination sounds like with that second inversion G and then the first inversion C. Here's something that I picked up. So what you can do is you can take the C and do a hammer on, and then also do either a little bit of a bend, which sounds like this, or you can take it and do a quick slide up and down, and it sounds like this. That's really great, right? Super spicy. I hope you enjoy it. All right, so the next one, you can do the same thing on the G, B, and E strings. The first inversion is going to look like this. The second inversion will look like this. And the root position will look like this. Okay, now down to the low strings. So the low strings are a little bit different. The low strings, because you're playing a lot of notes in the lower range of the instrument, some of the notes get a little bit muddy if you have too many of them. So what I'd suggest is, instead of doing full on G major to C major triads like we were doing in the upper register of the guitar, what I'd advocate is for you to play more like double stops with the C. So playing the root position G up to the C, I would play this the C chord as a sixth, so it'll look like this. And then the same thing with the first inversion. I would play it up to the root position C and back down, and it'll look like this. And then the second inversion will look like this. Okay, there are other types of embellishments that are pretty common that you can do. So another one is what we call an Appoggiatura. It's basically an accented group of non-chord tones. So here you play the C on a downbeat and resolve to G, and it creates this moment of tension and then resolution. It's really cool. So I'll just demonstrate a couple of them and you'll get the idea. So again, what I thought I would do is write an etude for this lesson and then post it on my website so you can really focus in and check out all of these possibilities. So here's what the etude sounds like. Let's take a deeper dive into this etude. Aside from the fact that this is a gospel funk etude using G and C triads, what else can we say about it? Well, you have this repeated pattern, this single line pattern, starting on G, that goes like this. And then you've got a couple of fills that happen toward the end of the pattern each time. So here's fill number one. And fill number one is that my favorite embellishment I told you I use a lot. So it's that one where you do the slide up starting on that second inversion G triad. Fill number two is a bend on that first inversion triad going down to C to G. Fill number three, I use a couple different inversions of the G and C triad. So the first one I use is actually an open position triad. So I talked about open position triads in the first video, using them on the low strings. And basically that type of triad is larger than an octave. So it looks like this. And then I go down to a first inversion G, and then to a C. And then I'm gonna play, I kind of cheated here. I played an A minor chord to a G chord. You'll get this a lot as like a gospel ending, but I would argue that this is actually a type of like C6. So instead of seeing this as an A minor chord that is A, C, and E, I kind of hear this as a C, E, G, A without the G, obviously. Going down to the G. So I kind of fudged it and I kind of didn't. And the last fill is one that I use to end the little etude, and it's basically using a series of G to G inversions, but I pass through a C, so it's like a passing chord. And the first one looks like this. So I start on the second inversion G, pass through the C, which is just a tenth, so not the entire chord, and go to that first inversion G. And I repeat it a couple of times. And then I'm gonna play the C as a sixth, and then the D as a sixth, and then the C6 as a sixth. So again, it looks like it could be an A minor chord, but I hear that as a C major chord with an A over top of it. And I end it with a good old open G chord. All right, so that concludes today's lesson video. I hope you enjoyed learning about embellishing your G major chords with C major chords. Sounds like a pretty banal, dull topic, but hopefully you enjoyed it as much as I did. If you liked what you saw here today, click the subscribe button below. We're always coming out with new videos and new tutorials. I'll see you next time.